Sorry about the late start, y'all. Let me get the word out. I apologize for being late. I was having a bit of stomach problems, but I am doing a bit better. Gotta love the multitude of issues that come with the female body. I don't want to bore you all. Welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. I am your host, Kalari GXC. There's a lot to talk about today. I'm going to get ready to get it started and fire it up. But I just want to thank everybody who has been on Spoutable, up to almost 800 followers, and it just amazes me how many people want to keep the connections we had from the other place. Spouting off to me has been a lot of fun. I've been able to talk not only things that I care about, like my book and music and other stuff, but it has been such a non toxic way to enjoy social media. Well, it's my ring off to go to the bathroom because I want to bring it in there. But and when I say that it is such a relaxing change of pace that we can talk things like politics and just even express ourselves without having to worry about being attacked by trolls, it is amazing. My friend Ada here was making such a good point about McCarthy that I'm going to get to in just a moment here because it has been annoying to deal with House Republicans, and they're far from the only doofuses that we've had to deal with. I'm going to bring up, not Twitter, I wanted to bring up this website that I had. Let me get it because it shows the tweets of these idiots rather than the site without having to constantly go back to my old stopping grounds for it. Oh, let me see if this will load. I hope I didn't crash the studio with that. We gotta hide spoutable. And yeah, there we go. I'm gonna transition that over. And I hate getting started on stuff that makes me angry, but these Bonnet Chronicles started from my Bonnet rant for a reason. And one of the things that I am seeing during Black History Month is a lean into misogynoir that cannot be ignored. One of the lead idiots that loves to do crap like this, their whole network is just garbage, is Fox News. But then when you preface it with, I don't even want to call him a personality because you have to have one of those to be called a personality. But Tuckhead Carlson is a menace. And have me having to agree with Michael Steele drives me nuts in all sorts of reasons. Like, I am not a fan of Michael Steele by a long shot because he's one of them Negroes that sold himself out to be a Republican, believed wholeheartedly in the conservative ideals until they turned their backs on him, until he stopped being the favorite Negro. And now all of a sudden, people want to open arms because he's talking against the people who turned their backs on him, so he's feeling catty. But these were your people. The stuff they were saying was stuff that you were parroting for years. So I don't have a high deal of respect for Michael Steele. But when you've got me agreeing with him against you, yeah. That's how bad Tucker Carlson's rant against President Biden was. Now, calling him a putz was funny enough, but the problem with the whole idea of what Tuckhead was doing, it's not for those of us who know better. It's for the base, which I told you are already loyal, so I don't understand why they keep doing this. But maybe the base isn't as strong as people think it is. And when you realize that the fear tactics, the open hate isn't working, who's this for? And I keep saying it is for those of you who are still apathetic to this, who don't want to push back because you act like you don't know how. Now, this idiot was going on a meltdown, and I'm not going to give him any extra amplification. I refuse to even call him by his given name because I am sick of Fox Propaganda Network. But I will call out what he got wrong because he got a lot wrong in his racist meltdown. And I'm grateful for articles like this because I don't have to directly listen to it. And welcome to the chat, Respect. I was a bit late, so I'm glad you made it. But Tuckhead seems to think that Joe Biden isn't appointing enough white judicial appointees. We know who this dog bullhorn is. I'm not even calling it a dog whistle. I'll get to some of the tweets that have been highlighted down in this article because they were pointing out things that I kind of agreed with but was getting on my nerves. He goes, out of 97 federal judges confirmed under Joe Biden, total number of white men, 5. Okay, we're going to get to what's wrong with that in just a moment. He griped on Monday night. 22 are black women. So this is race-based hiring. It's illegal. There's a lot to unpack with the stupidity. I don't like stupid things. Stupid things make my head hurt. Stupid things get on my nerves because they are so in your face and heavy-handed stupid. But the fact that he can deliver something like that, something so factually untrue, with anger and passion, it riles up the people who don't want to know better. Because I'm not going to give you the benefit of the doubt anymore. If you're eating up stuff from Tuckhead Carlson, you don't want to know better. You want to stay ignorant. And yes, I call him Tuckhead. I refuse to respect his given name because I don't like what he and Fox does. I think it's propaganda. I think it's used to divide, give misinformation. So I refuse to play their games. And I refuse to amplify by putting his stuff on my show. But I can call it out thanks to articles like this. Now, as this article has pointed out to contradict Tuckhead's nonsense, the federal judiciary is overwhelmingly white and male. The American Bar Association said last year that 70% of all sit-in Article 3 federal judges are white male and 78% of justices are white. In addition, the organization said 16 states have no federal judges of color at all, which means black, brown, or anything that doesn't identify as straight white male. The problem only got worse under 45, who another one I refuse to use his name because of personal reasons, who appointed the smallest share of non-white justices in over 25 years with no complaints from Tuckhead. So Steele, who, like I said, I don't agree with him most of the time. He was one of those porch Negroes, as I like to call, who were fine with the Conservative Party until the Conservative Party threw him out. But when he has bangers, I can give the man props. And he goes, Tuckums, because, like I said, black people we know, we will not use your name right if we don't respect you. And that is just how I rolled. And I figured other black people rolled like that too. We will call you out your name when we don't respect who you are. And that's just that I figured that was just a thing that we did to show people when we don't feel them. And he said 226 federal judges appointed by Trump. The total number of black people, 9. He says in that high-pitched voice of someone awaiting puberty, I guess those white judges were race-based illegal hiring that was not about looking like America but punishing people. Putz. And I was like, whoa. He came out for, like, the man was made a Muppet on The Daily Show for a reason. But for me, this was him coming out swinging because for somebody who's steeped his whole blood in conservatism, he's over it. And it's about time more people wake up and are over these blatant dog bullhorns. It's not a whistle. We can hear it, man. We've been hearing it. Our ancestors were hearing it for years too. We know you don't want us up in the space. We know you don't want us leading. You don't respect our accolades. You don't respect what it takes to even be a black justice in America and get through those spaces that make it clear what unwanted and still succeed. But to have Tuckhead and other assholes on Fox News constantly try to downplay what this administration is trying to do, and still, there is still 70% of our judicial system does not look like us, does not represent us, and is hammer fisted against black and brown people. And that's the way Tuckhead and many others who are complacent want it. So I want to, in the short amount of time that I have to talk about these topics tonight, hammer home what people can do to contradict us. Because it's not enough to just call it out anymore. Because there are enough people that will still buy into this. But I am grateful for the other app because people will call it out. He calls out the total number of white men only being 5, ignoring that hundreds of white men sit on benches that they don't deserve. Judges like that idiot in Wisconsin who literally let the Kenosha killer off with a pat on the head. Oh, he was just there to keep the peace. He was a 17-year-old with a weapon that he shouldn't have legally had, driven over by his mother, and 2 people paid for their lives, almost 3. He got away with literal murder. This is why our judicial system needs reform. This is why we need more representation than just old white men who look at a literal killer and see themselves. But Tuckhead doesn't want that. He wants people who will continue to harbor this injustice, who will continue to see people like my son in a hoodie as a thug for doing nothing but minding their own business, trying to get home like Elijah, but can legitimately let somebody who had a history of not only histrionic problems, mental health problems, but wasn't even well liked in school, and the only friend he had was his gun, cross state lines, commit murder, and get away with it like the Kenosha killer did. Kyle, yes, if you ever get to see these Bonnet Chronicles, I'm talking about you. Deal with it. You murdered people. You might have the law on your side like most little white boys do for some strange reason. That's why Dylan Roof, who literally went into a church and murdered 9 black elders who were praying with him, who made him almost have a change of heart because he started to see the humanity, but the hate was so festered in his brain and veins that he couldn't let it go. He thought he was going to start a race war, and all you did was end your life and path because you couldn't let go of that abyss of hate. Yet the cops, knowing this young man was dangerous, knowing he was armed, knowing that 9 lives were lost to his hands, took him out to eat. That's the kind of America that Tuckhead Carlson and several others are trying to protect, and this is the America that I am fighting against. Because this is my country too, whether people like it or not. And you're going to have to deal with the changes. And the changes are still so slow because they have to be gradual. We are undoing 400 years of indoctrinated hate, bigotry. It's like thorny vines wrapped around us. And I'm not going to act like it's easy to free ourselves from it, but I'm not going to act like it's impossible too. No matter how high-pitched squealing Tuckhead gets, he's not doing this because he knows it's effective. He's doing this because his ideals are in their death throes. And this shit sells. This shit gets articles. This shit is tweeted about over and over again because it's what people want to pay attention to. Whether you say so or not, we have this toxic addiction to these idiots and their antics that we have to detox ourselves from. That's why I'm grateful for Spoutable. Because we have a way of getting away from their stuff and not helping circulate their lies. We can call out their lies, which this article helped do, which I'm going to help do. But what we have got to start doing is starving them, paying these idiots the dust they deserve, making sure they don't have ratings, period. Making it where advertisers go, oh, I don't want to deal with this. This isn't our ideals. This isn't what our brand wants to be associated with. I need to chill with giving money to these channels that spread these lies, propaganda, and easily debunked bullshit. Because that's all Fox is at this point. How can we anger up conservatives so that we keep them fearful of an America that's equal, fearful of Americans that don't look like them, angry and tense and ready to go for this weird ass culture war that we want to fight for our democracy? You're not fooling anybody at this point. This is all this is. It is a call to arms to dummies who don't want to think, don't want to share, and think they could get along without us. And point blank, your ancestors couldn't get along without us. You couldn't get along without us. You wouldn't know what to do in America without black people. Your kids listen to our music, stand our culture and everything about us while being able to hate us. You bite and copy our recipes, our vernaculars, everything about us, man. Yet you hate that we continue on because we have to be resilient. We are literally the children of the people that you shackled, brought over on ships, completely dehumanized, worked your fields, bred like they were nothing but cattle. And a lot of times you wouldn't even let us breed with each other because you feared our black blood that much. So excuse me if I'm not going to let you continue to run our country because it is our country. You forced that. Some of us might have came over here voluntarily after the fact, but a lot of us are generationally tied to this land. Our roots are here, and I refuse to let you disrespect that. And what drives me nuts about the fact that people are fighting against black female justice appointees is they don't want fair and balanced justice. They want to keep our system poisoned and toxic and against Americans who don't happen to look straight, white, and male. They want to keep their weird, bigoted grip or chokehold on our society. And they see that we aren't going for it anymore. And while these appointees might seem like a lot to a racist like Tuckhead, it is far from enough because we still have 16 states that have no justices of color at all. We still have states that refuse to even entertain the notion. And until we start making those strides, and until we get more appointees, I don't hear nothing from the peanut gallery that keeps in the Klan. Joe Biden is doing his damnedest to try to diversify the America that he represents. And this loud caterwauling is showing me that our president is doing his job and doing an effective job. And he needs to be able to continue to do that. But I am so worried that the people that shouldn't be clarion called by this, who want to find a reason to complain, are the ones that they are doing this for at this point. Because like I said, the conservative base, even if they're MAGA hat wearers, even if they think they're quiet enough to lurk and hate us from the sidelines, they're loyal. This is for the disaffected Dems, the so-called independents who we don't fall for their magic grandpa or Boston Becky's nonsense. So they're mad and they want reasons to ding at this administration because they harbor prejudice too. Oh, I can't be prejudiced, Tan. I'm a blue wave Dem. I've never lived among black people. I view you as a separate species, but I'm a blue wave Dem. I can't hold prejudice. But I'm getting tired of you, black woman. Your words hurt my feelings. I don't care how you vote. I care how you carry yourself amongst other Americans who don't have the same opportunities as you to be centered, who have to strategically vote because we know that people that look like us, that are active like us, that talk like us, scare the shit out of you. That's why you replaced one of the best presidents of our freaking lifetime with a literal turd who ran our country into the ground. I will never forgive white Democrats because we've seen them poll numbers. We've seen how you didn't turn out for HRC. We see how you are already falling for the okey doke misogynoir against VP Harris. You play the games the conservatives want. And when they rally against black judicial appointees, they're not doing it for their base. They're doing it as a clarion call to those of you who want a reason to feel dissatisfied because you fear that equality and equity. And it's very clear to those of us who have to survive this. It is so frustrating when I see friends who act like they know better, but still say the same tropes against VP Harris. And you sit there and you're like, so you think her being a AG, prosecutor, sitting black female senator, which we've had very few of a large state, isn't enough qualifications to you? But 45's only qualifications to ever run for president was he was a white, supposedly rich, those taxes prove that's not true, Christian, and I use quotations for that Christian part, male. The man has lied his way into the so-called upper echelon society, and even they didn't want him until they realized they could use him. And even then, when they realized how stupid he was, they started distancing themselves. Get what they can, but don't get too close because that stench can't wash off no matter how wealthy you are. You ever notice that very few of the wealthy elite put their hands into the Trump cookie jar because they realized it wasn't worth it? The very few that have are struggling. Looking at Musk with his $44 billion flop. Every single person that aligned themselves with 45 has regretted that decision because they realized that while the long con might work for him and his family somewhat, it won't help their businesses. It won't help their goals or agendas. But they were fucking stupid enough to get in bed with them. And now look at them. Look at the pillow guy. He was always loopy anyway. And anybody who pays $50 for a stupid ass pillow is a fool that deserves to be parted from their finances. But his leap off the deep end in devotion to MAGA shouldn't surprise anybody. This is all they have. It's one grift after another and nothing of substance. So it's funny watching karma come for all of them, but it's still not enough because 2024 is a year away. And I see people seriously taking shit like this to heart because you fear diversity. But we are a diverse nation, whether you want to accept it or not. And while the move to get more black female justices is something that I personally want to see, I also want to see more Asian justices. I want to see more LGBTQ plus justices. I want to see more Hispanic justices. I want to see indigenous justices because our country needs proper both federal legal representation, but local legal representation. We need people who see us and don't just see our kids as out of the way menaces or people that they can just throw into the system that will destroy them. We need to destroy that prison from school to prison pipeline that so many kids of color go through, but especially black kids. And the only way we are going to do this is to continue to have both national and local representation that looks like us and that sees us whether they look like us, which is what we have in President Biden and VP Harris. And if that scares you, you cannot sit with us. And I will never stop saying that because too many of you want to seat at the table, want to be loud and in charge, but don't care about who else is sitting next to you. You have absolutely no respect for your neighbors or people that don't look or culturally represent like you do. You can't understand that that shouldn't take away from you. One of the things I seen on Spoutable earlier when I get back to it, and I don't know because scrolling is still hard on OBS and I want to talk about what Ada said, but another person put out that Black history and the study of both enslaved people is not a way for white America to feel guilty about being white. It is to condemn the acts of the past so that they aren't repeated. Yet so many conservatives are so afraid of that. And when I think about the why, not only does it make me pause, but it makes me worry because I really think these yahoos think they can bring us back to those days. Welcome to the chat, Beans. I really feel like they are strongly believing that they can convince enough white people to start really rounding up black and brown people and put them on plantations again. And thank you for the resubscribe. Woo, 10 months. I feel like they really feel like they can drag us backwards. Look at how many of them long for the days of the past, even though the past wasn't a great. I love history, but I love true, real history, and it was not always a pleasant place to be, even if you were straight white and supposedly Christian. So it troubles me how many people long for past things. I'm seeing it a lot in gaming, even. Oh, venture to the past where you can build and be in the medieval times and toil and pillage and all. I'm like, no, I'm good. Kind of leaning towards sci-fi with both my writing and everything else anyway. I really don't want to play a game where I have to toil, man. My ancestors did enough for that. It's the reason why America built up its wealth in the first place. I don't understand certain demographics' obsession with it. Like, your people were probably serfs. Unless you came from money, which means your people exploited serfs, there is absolutely no reason for anybody in gaming to want people pillaging and toiling fields to make their name, because you'll never truly make your name that way. We've learned that throughout our history. How many people really know pirates? There's no such thing as really famous pirates. If they are famous, they were famous for the amount of bodies they left behind them. They weren't lauded or treated like heroes, they were treated like criminals. You don't remember farmers or people who actually did feed our nation and still continue to. They're not treated like heroes either. Teachers or instructors either. We tend to stand and pillarize the infamous. People who do awful things. That's why so many of us know the names of literal serial killers over those who actually do heroics. Our society is broken, and it's not going to stop until we start calling out these broken bits. I love stuff like Max Kennedy. He's on Spoutable too. I've seen his new spouts. But he tweeted out, current sitting federal justices, 1407. White men, 779. Black women, 63. But if you listen to the propaganda of Fox News, those 63 black women might as well just be taking over everything. The amount of acceptable bigotry, it's on us to purge from our systems. The bad thing is we are fighting something that is so easy. It's like breathing to some people. It's so easy that some of us, even though we are black, we can't stand ourselves because we've been in a society that has taught us to hate who we are. And that is a hard toxin to purge. It really is fighting on all fronts, respect. And for those who are multi-ethnic, because I haven't forgotten about y'all, I'm raising a son that, I'm sorry, he's raised black. I don't know how to any other raise him. I don't disrespect his other half. I let him know what I can, but I can't effectively raise him in an ethnicity that I don't know. So I am raising him to be a black male. But I do know for multi-ethnic, because I hate using racial. I hate using biracial because we still play those weird societal games with skin tone, treat you like you're a different race when we're all human. Nah, not going to do that. Point blank, multi-ethnic people are in a weird time because we are seeing how open-faced hate is trying to bring divisions within our community and showing how our community hasn't really gotten our heads wrapped around how to treat our kids. That's why you see certain pro-black people against VP Harris, who happens to be a black and Southeast Asian woman. These are the same people who will look at my son, who will even look at President Obama as if they're not black enough, and we're not doing that. Because we've literally had a society where Black people, even if they had one drop, allegedly, of black blood, was shunned by society. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with being black. It's one of the things that I had a problem with, constantly talking about that British royal drama saga. Because as much as I believe in the Sussexes, I'm glad they're here. I love that Harry's book is doing well. I love that he and Meghan, Lilybeth, and Archie are living their best lives. It troubles me seeing how acceptable the bigotry was, not even here, but abroad. But also some of the internalized stuff that she's still probably working through because she didn't have to grow up black. And that is a reality for a lot of black affluent women. You can code switch because you kind of have to survive in that society. You have to not see your own color and that distant from it. And she's far from the only one, especially if they can pass somewhat, that has to deny that side of themselves. So it's hard for me to deal with that. And I'm hoping that she not only continues her therapy, but continues to find that side of herself that loves herself. Because anti-blackness is way too acceptable in our community and beyond. And that's another thing. Her mother probably did it for her own safety. And that hurts the most because a lot of us have family like that. A lot of us have family that realize that the only way to navigate this, especially if you had anything, especially if you want to protect yourself, is to seem less black. Because if you're too black, it's too much for them. But you know what? It's time to just be too much for them. Because anti-blackness is so self-taught, even within our community, that we'll see elders go, well, I can't trust a black doctor. Black medical professionals have told horror stories of our own people acting like they don't want you touching them because you can't be trusted. That's how insidious anti-blackness is. And if we are going to have a chance in this culture war, we have to see the problem, call out the problem, and work on our own internalizing of the problem. Some of us want to act like we're not part of the problem, and that's a big part of the problem. We are internalizing our own self hate, and we have to purge that from our system because black is more than just beautiful. Black is smart, black is American. And it might not have been originally by design, but we don't even know that. One of the things I love about studying history and archaeology is the things we don't know. We just assume. We don't even know how half the monuments were created. We don't know how people truly lived back in those days because we weren't there. We make a lot of educated guesses. And this continent, for everything it was worth, even before they put people in bondage and brought them over there, had people of darker features. What we continue to learn and what we continue to try to know is on us. But instead, we let closed-minded bigots go, nope, can't learn that. If we teach people that their humanity is actually that, they might not be easy to control over. They want us dumb, divided, fearful, and fighting, and we have to be the ones to get away from this. And like I said, Tucker gets 9 million lollipops in a row. Black women get 2 in a row. Tucker, she's stealing my lollipops. Wow. One of the things I will miss about the other site is that people will continue to be toxic and clap this back. But I really don't miss that site anymore. It's not a fun place to be in when all you've done is fight all your life. And I know black people and people of color, LGBTQ, are tired. We're tired of fighting. We're tired of fighting alone. We're tired of fighting with people who want to talk over or for us, but not with us, not amplifying us because you want pats on the head. We are tired, but we can't get up because we can't afford to. So what I need those of you who claim to be our allies to do is to not just hear us, but to do your part and beyond. because it is going to take some severe organization. I hear the people complaining about the economy. I've grown up in unstable economies. Reagan did a doozy on our economy. People were literally living in cars. But nobody want to talk about that. They want to martyrize that motherfucker. We have had troublesome times, especially if you grew up in the 70s and 80s. This ain't our first okey doke. We have grandparents that literally survived the Great Depression. So the economy being wonky because 45's shenanigans. Because it's funny how you'd want to blame President Biden, but you didn't want to blame 45 for coasting on Barack Obama's good presidency and still tanking our economy. Now you want to blame President Biden, who literally came into nothing being done for a pandemic and beyond, and still making strides. If you want to blame anybody for why pricing is going up, look no further than the businesses driving up those prices. And I would suggest, instead of shopping at Whole Foods, sorry, Mr. Bezos, please don't cancel my stream, but there's alternatives like Aldi's, fresh markets all around our country. Unless you're black and have to deal with your only grocery store being shot up by a white supremacist. But this isn't for y'all. Because I know your struggle, and I want your struggle to be less than. This is for those of you who have the opportunity to shop smarter and better, but just don't want to because it's not convenient for you. So you'll go in the Whole Foods and spend your whole paycheck and then post pictures and complain about it. But that is on you. You still have choices. You're not living in a literal food desert. Some of you do not understand the privilege you have to wield, and it's exhausting dealing with you because you are the most entitled, and you are Yep, it unplugged. Ooh, darn it. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Mid rant too. Good lord. My leg hit the thing and pulled the wire out. But getting back to it, we literally had a biological response team set up by President Obama that 45 completely disabled. We were able to stop widespread of the pandemic until that idiot decided, nah, I'm not going to do that. I don't understand it. I don't want the budget for it. I'm going to pocket the money myself, probably, allegedly, so I don't get sued by 45. But as a president, he didn't see the importance, and then COVID legitimately, and is still ravishing our country because not only did he not have the response team, but then he downplayed it. He's now suing Bob Woodward, which I don't feel sorry for Bob Woodward. You literally sat, and this is, I got into fights with people on Twitter, and I will not stop fighting this point. He literally sat on information that could have saved lives. They knew COVID was airborne. They just thought, oh, well, it'll harm the black community, so we will downplay it until enough of them are dead. They were literally hoping to create a bioterrorism to put us in our place. And it's sickening. And it's sad. Because even though we now have boosters, most of us in my house are at least 4 times now. Even though we have a full-on COVID response, which took time because we were working from nothing. But the Biden-Harris administration did not let us down with it. Even though we have centers that can do rapid testing and responses, we still have idiots because of 45's downplaying it and because they just don't feel it who aren't doing the right thing. And we still have hundreds of deaths each day from this preventable pandemic. And that is systemic of 45. But if you want to see who's to blame for prices going up, look no further than those CEOs who not only make prices go up arbitrarily so that their cushy lives are not bothered, but they're firing people left and right, thus creating an unstable job security market. It is a mess of our own making because we don't push back against these people. We think, oh, they're rich. We've got to treat them with reverence and respect, but we really don't. One of the things that I've seen on Spoutable that I definitely agree with is that when tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands, like in Microsoft and Facebook's point, are losing jobs, their CEO needs to be followed with them, because if you can't run a company that can keep all your people, you don't deserve to be called a leader. A leader protects all of us. These men aren't leaders. They're just lucky trust fund fuckers that fell into money and continue to get given money because our society is so warped to think, well, they deserve it. But why? Zuckerberg has proven that with this meta idea, he has absolutely no idea what people who are actually into gaming and VR want. He has absolutely no clue, but you can't tell him anything because he's been rich all his life and surrounded by people who only tell him yes. The only thing I give to Bezos, besides he's no longer putting penis rockets into the sky right now, is that he keeps a low profile when it comes to his holdings. He doesn't make the best decisions, and he does like to get in the fights with activists over Queen Elizabeth. But he realizes that I don't really need a lot of spotlight on me because he wasn't born rich. He's now part of the elite because he pushed his way in. But he still has the mentality of somebody who had to come up. He's not perfect, but when you're not born in that society, you have a little bit more humility to what you do at times. He's still a rich white guy, though. So I say that with a grain of salt. There's a difference between him, Zuckerberg, apartheid edgelord, and a few of the others that are the tech bro squad, as I like to call them. Branson in England, who still wasted money on endeavors, but it's his money to waste. Our society continues to put these men on undeserved pillars for simply being rich or born into wealth, and that is a problem that our society is going to have to stamp out. Because all of these people are the ones that dictate the prices of our food, dictate the prices of our clothes, lobby for idiots like McCarthy and them to increase stuff like sales tax budget by 30%, which won't pass, thank goodness. Despite our media running around like the sky is falling, even if they wanted to try to pass that in the House or Senate would shut it down. That is why we have three branches of government. But some people, they just want to sky is falling because they see competency as a threat to their bottom line. When we had incompetence running us for 4 years, it was nonstop news stories about awful stuff. And people started to ingest that as a daily toxin. And I want us to get away from that constant fear mongering, constant standing of incompetence, and constant looking for the bad. It is more than enough time to start pushing towards hopeful. One of the things that bothered me today, one of the things that I was reading about on Spoutable here, was McCarthy's bullcrap about Speaker McCarthy. He said he told Biden, and it's President Biden, asshole, to not use extreme MAGA Republicans in his State of the Union speech. I don't think that's an appropriate comment that the president should make. You literally was standing the man who, us versus them, America, who literally drew battle lines who said that he is the president of only certain people. So if my president, Joe Biden, Mr. Biden, if we're being respectful, wants to call out these extreme MAGA Republicans, I wholeheartedly support it. And just like Ada said, I hope this is the only way Uncle Joe mentions that. It says a lot that McCarthy decided to leak a private conversation to our media. He wouldn't want the same thing paid to him. But this is the same man who literally tried to fix the 2020 election for a literal insurrectionist. So nothing he says should be taken seriously. A man who wasted the first part of our year trying to put himself as speaker because nobody wanted him. They got up to nearly 16 times. The world got to see the clownery and the buffoonery of the Republican Party on full display. So nothing this man says should be taken seriously. But to try to call out our president on calling out a very extremist faction of his party, you aren't calling it out because you know he's talking about you, Representative McCarthy. And it's funny because that name has always historically been used by bad people. I've expressed him in private that we've had discussions about that as well, he told reporters. And it's like, I don't understand why McCarthy thinks he has a lot of power. He really is weak, respect. I really do not understand his hubris. His party is literally falling apart. You've got the Senate where Rick Scott is trying to power play against McConnell, which I'm going to say this about McConnell, and this will probably be the only semi-compliment I will give to him. That gargoyle knew how to hold his group in line and in place. He was still slithering and sneaky and conniving, but he believed in his version of America. Rick Scott is nothing but a thief. That's why Florida rejected him. He literally stole from Medicaid and Medicare. And for him to be trying to make a senatorial power play and accuse people of not being loyal is laughable. But he has no fangs, and McConnell will make sure to knock him back into place. What's going on in our House, though, is a mess. You have literal MAGA extremists holding McCarthy by the little balls that he has. And he's just allowing it. He has no bite, yet he runs to the press because he knows they'll put out articles like this. And if you are still supporting 45, you deserve to be called a MAGA extremist because you are dangerous to our country. What bothers me about this article and stuff like this is the fact that people still act like these people are normal. There is absolutely nothing normal about the MAGA loyal. It's delusional at this point. They were here with us the 4 years of 45, the fallout, as I call it. They buried their loved ones too, just like the rest of us. They've seen the damage that man did here and abroad to our allies in Yemen, to the Syrians who are still suffering. And I did not forget about the earthquake. I will talk more about that on Friday. I did not feel right haphazardly hem-hawing about something that I'm still researching. But I know their people are suffering from our constant interference. And for all of you who want to blame President Biden for continuing something that 45 started in the Syrian rollout, I'm sick of it. But I am not going to keep worrying because there are enough of us who believe in this constant good, who want competence. It might be a hard fight because some of you are still apathetic, but we're willing to fight. That's why we were able to get Pennsylvania, despite me not liking Grimace so much. That's why we were able to amazingly win here in Michigan, with 14 Republicans gunning for Governor Whitmer because they wanted that pot money, y'all. My state has made over $1.9 billion in revenue since we legalized weed. And instead of a governor going, look at me, and doing stunts like shipping migrants like they're ragdoll, she is starting a relief fund for Michiganders that are going to help families left and right. But people don't want to talk about that. They would much rather Fangless McCarthy post. You have to go digging for governors who are doing right. People in California under Newsom have been getting relief. And while I do, like a lot of other people, hope that they start to work harder on things like the homelessness issue and stop allowing Silicon Valley to dictate the unstable job market, a governor can only do so much, and they need their voters to step up. I feel like a lot of people don't understand that we are 50 states. And while our president can do a lot, their hands are tied by the three branches. So, who is in our Senate and House truly matters, but who represents you locally matters as well. And there are still way too many of you who are apathetic. You act like your lives aren't on the line, too. If you're a woman, you should have seen how the Dobbs repeal would directly impact you. It shouldn't have taken you putting your hands on a hot stove to realize you were going to get burned. But now that some of you have seen it, I hope your eyes are open to what you need to do. It shouldn't take these constant threats of extreme theocratic types to make you realize what they want to move us into, what they've used their Bible to try to keep us in. I am not anti-religion. I think there is a place for spirituality, but when you use that spirituality to keep people down in bondage, away from knowledge, I can't ascribe to that. And the modern Republican Party, that is all they are about at this point. Keeping their base fearful, hateful, and armed, and keeping the rest of us sick, dying, and poor. And it is not a balanced society. And it is going to topple over if we don't do our part to strengthen and back people who want to make it level and even. The playing field has been uneven for so long. It feels like we can't get up that slope, but Black people are resilient. People of color are resilient because we've had to survive the system. But we don't have to play by the system's rules, and they are scared that we are starting to wake up to that. That is why they go against the woke agenda, as they call it, or the agenda where, where's my place going to be? Well, if you're smart, right alongside us. If you're not, well, you can't sit with us. It really is that simple. If you aren't afraid of knowledge, if you're not afraid of fellow human beings, you will always have a place in a society that doesn't indulge in toxic bigotry. But the problem is, too many of you only feel power when you're putting other people down, only feel power when you're belittling people, and you are part of a system that is dying because it is not sustainable. We have seen it in the acts of violence and aggression. We have seen it in unstable economies. We have seen it in your fool king in 45. That kind of thinking is not sustainable for a smart society. And whether you like it or not, as our digital tech continues to grow, we should be growing with it. I had an idea come to me as I'm writing the second book. And I say this as somebody whose grandmother succumbed to Alzheimer's. One of the things I realized about the human brain, just like every other part of our body, is our brains are muscle and fiber and tissue. And just like every part of an actual physical workout, and I don't say this because I just started lifting again, but every part of your system should be constantly in motion and learning. You should be researching, and in this digital age, it's even easier to learn new things, whether it's a language, whether it's music, art. You could be self-teaching yourself so many amazing things, but people want to be stuck on stupid. And I feel like even for smart people, because to me, my grandmother was one of the smartest people in the world, but she started like around her mid-50s calling herself dumb. She stopped reading books the way she used to. She really started to regress herself for some reason. And I wasn't privy to everything in her life. But I know in our culture and our society, especially for Black women, to keep our men, We have to lessen ourselves a lot of times. We have to not be seen so smart. We have to not be mouthy. And I know that while I love Pop Pop, I don't think he was a bad man for grandma, especially after my grandfather passed. He did have a lot of old fashioned values for them that probably made grandma stop studying and reading and keeping a book in her hand like I do a lot. And when you don't train your brain, it atrophies. And unfortunately, we found out that a lot of the studies and research for Alzheimer's was bogus. A lot of money went wasted for people who didn't really study what was going on. So we are still at square one with a lot of the research for it. And it's sad that we don't know. But it could be that a lot of our elders just don't have the opportunity to work their minds the way they should. And we, in my generation too, we still, a lot of us scorn technology. We still don't utilize it the way we should. And that is on us. Our brain is a muscle that we should be constantly working, making better so that we don't lose ourselves so easily. And I don't know if it's 100% because there is still so much we don't know about that disease. But I do know that there's a reason the brain regresses and why they hold on to certain memories. Why my grandmother could look us in the eye and be like, oh, calling us by their sister or their mama's name. Because they do hold certain pieces. You don't lose all your memories. You just can't organize them anymore. Because that muscle in your mind no longer functions like that. It's on us. We are literally in the age where there is absolutely no reason to be ignorant. But too many people, it's easier for y'all. And you're going to lead our society into destruction if we allow it. So if you want to help us in this culture war, I don't need you fighting everybody. I don't want people burning themselves out doing that. I want you to be better people. Learn something new every day. Get to know other cultures without tokenizing them, without making them feel uncomfortable, because they're human beings too. Black History Month, learn actual Black history and support Black writers, authors, and shows. Immerse yourselves. We're out there. So many people, thanks to Spoutable too, get to support my work. I have pushed into a genre that not a lot of women like me, but there are plenty of women like me that you can read too. Better science fiction writers that wrote in a time where they weren't accepted. We're out there and we need your support. So if you want to do more for fellow human beings who just happen to be of different ethnic background than you, these are ways you can do it. You can support our work. You can amplify our voices. You can join in because we won't bite if your intentions are right. My friends come from every walk of life, save conservative now, because I've been honest about this. I can't have friends who actively fight against my humanity, against my gender, against my friends whose gender identity clashes with your beliefs. So I've distanced myself from a lot of people I used to think I was cool with until I realized I can't be cool with you. Because you're willing to put somebody that literally caused the death of my friends and family into power, and I can't. If you're still openly conservative, you will never sit with us, as far as I'm concerned. And that is just a cold hearted, full truth. Oh, I'm glad being. I really, really want more people on this site. I am under Kalari Gamer Chick. I wanted to grab my name just in case. Because unlike Twitter, I wasn't really worried about somebody copying me on Spoutable. Christopher Boozy has been really amazing with, making sure that people aren't fake. And that was one of the things I wanted to explain because I know some people were like, what's that normal 0% mean under your name? And that was his way of showing people who might be suspicious, might show bot like activity, as long as you are who you say you are and 100%, you will always have that normal 0% by your name. If you're suspicious or sketchy, that number will go up so that people will know maybe I don't want to interact with this person. Another thing that I'm liking about this site is that while we might not all have the same ideas, belief systems, or whatnot, we're not constantly arguing with each other. A lot of us knew how to navigate because of Twitter, how to ignore somebody that's clearly on your last nerves. I think what Spoutable is going to give us is actual social media again. It's still touch and go because like every beta, there's going to be problems, but the problems are not insurmountable. Like the few hiccups that I've had, he got fixed really quick. And every day there are newer features. He just added time zones and everything else. Once the site is a bit more streamlined, it'll be easier for me to navigate in OBS as well. But that's the cool thing about having our own spaces. And the funny thing about Musk, he has been on some shit trying to attack Christopher for doing this. And his loyal trolls want to try to attack this place as not being legit, but it's legit. As you can see, as I scroll down, I'm able to post all the time now. I try not to get too distracted by it because I am right in the second novel, but it is a very nice place. There is an edit button. There's been a bit of an issue where the edit button disappears once you post or spout, but they're working on fixing that because I was gonna pin the original spout and then one of the links didn't work, so I wanted to fix it, but the edit button disappeared. So they're working on fixing that, and we will get the edit feature back for all of our spouts soon. But it's nice having somebody that cares. And oh, yeah, that's right. Just drop the K at Kalari Gamer Chick. Because for some reason, Twitter had that handle for me because I guess the K was a bit too much. So I just kept using that wherever I go. And that is probably how you could tell the authentic me in a lot of mediums. I don't mean to give that away because I still don't have an Instagram or want it, don't have a TikTok or want it. But I believe my YouTube and Spoutable and Twitter are still that handle. And I'll be 100% honest with people if something's me or not. Unlike some people that will shy away, I will be brutal. I honestly still don't even understand TikTok. I know I do Bonnet shorts sometimes on Twitter, and that's why a lot of people thought that was for me, but I just, that medium's never really appealed to me, and I think I'm going to stay away from it. I got YouTube. I've got Twitch. I don't see the point of TikTok in that way. I don't hate it, and I want to make it clear. I think a lot of people are having fun on it, and if that's for you, more power to you. I'm just in that weird age of I don't see it being for me. It's just not appealing to me as anything but a casual observer every once in a while because Greg has one, which cracks me up because he didn't want social media at first and now he's into it, but loves TikTok. I don't know. I guess it just appeals to the younger people's brains. And yes, he's younger than me, y'all. I tease him sometimes because he's technically a millennial to my Gen X behind. But either way, I'm just grateful for the ability to have this and do these kind of things. And I don't blame you, Grandamir. I feel the same way sometimes, but I had to, for work 10 years ago, start being in social media for both the PR and magazine. And it showed me that I can do it my way. And as long as I can continue to navigate the digital spaces my way, I'm fine. Is when people are like, no, Tim, you have to get it. I had a young lady on Twitter yell at me because I didn't want a TikTok. Oh, you can sell more of your stuff. You can do this. I get it. Believe me, I get that social media could make me a giant if I want, but I don't want. I just want to write, tell stories, and have fun with my friends. I want social media that isn't toxic. I want to be on Twitch and game with my friends and watch my friends do it. I want that balance, and I was about to say that, respected. Thank you. I believe we all can do that. This world is what we make of it, and way too many of us think that we have to have hardship and turmoil to live. That's not life. Life is to be appreciated and to find your spot that makes you happy and protect that. Protecting your peace, finding others who want to enjoy that peace with you, and just being happy that you're here because we were given a gift being here. I've always believed that. That was the deepest part of my spirituality, is believing that life in itself is precious. And I want more of us to appreciate that. To understand that while, yeah, hate and ignorance is like a low-hanging fruit and really easy to indulge in, it doesn't help your life. It closes you off to so many good connections. So many friendships I built with people that they didn't have to grow up or even look like me to understand me. Geeks come in every freaking color. And I love that about us. I love being able to talk things like sci-fi and anime and gaming with people. And I want that world to keep getting bigger and better. But it's on us. And we are literally, like I said, in a war with people who want to hold on to toxic traditions, want to keep us at each other's throats because they only get their power from that. And it is time for those of us whose eyes have been open to show people what true power is, and that it lifts everybody up, not just a few. Everybody deserves, even those that are going to hem and haw no matter what. That is what pragmatism is about. That is what I'm about. That is what I'm raising my kid to be about. He's going to be 18 in 11 days. And while it fills me with emotion, I know I raised my kid right. He's already ready to fill out his voter registration because he has been with me since he was in a child carrier going to vote. We take this seriously because where we came from, what we know, and what we want other people to experience with us, which is stability. People who see us and care about us. So if that is what you are about, you will always have a seat at my table. You will always be a part of my pod. But I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. Go get some dinner made. Thank you so much for sitting in. Beans, respect, Granamir, you are so amazing. Everybody who lurks, shares this. I put these up on YouTube as well. I appreciate you all. Everybody who has supported the book. I am so appreciative of everything you have done. All of your friendships. Respect. Thank you so much for being a mod. I appreciate you all so much, and I will be back on Friday. We will probably talk a more heavier topic with the earthquake and the relief funds for that, but I wanted to give serious full time for something like that, and I just really wanted to rant about McCarthy's nonsense and Tuckhead, and I didn't want to cross the two because they don't deserve to be crisscrossed. But I will be back on Friday night. Thank you all for sitting in, and you have, definitely going to give a State of the Union review. Definitely, that I am so, and I knew you would do Y'all. See you later. Have a good evening.